Okay, let's begin. The first week, we did the creation week, and we looked at the biblical justifications for a 24-hour day, a literal 6-day creation. Week number 2, we did Adam and Eve and the garden and original sin, and the first exposition of God's plan for salvation to restore humanity in a relationship with Him. Last week we looked at Cain and Abel, and the main lesson that I take away from that, which I didn't mention in my talk last week, is things go better when we do things God's way. There's the story of Cain and Abel in a nutshell. And we looked briefly at the Nephilim and some of the theories surrounding that and the fallen angels. And this week we're going to do one of my all-time favorite talks. We're going to do Noah's Ark. The handout that I gave you, just by way of explanation, the story of Noah's Ark is actually built into the Chinese language, and they don't even recognize it. The first symbol on the top is the symbol for water. The second symbol for those who play mahjong is the number 8. And the third symbol is for mouths or people. And the placement of characters in Chinese is important. So you got 8 people after the water. And it's the Chinese verb to continue. I always thought that was truly amazing. Next week's talk on Tower of Babel and the Table of the Nations, we're going to get more into some of the symbols in the Chinese language which point to biblical creation, God, and the fall. But for today, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. What did God really mean by build an ark? Experts say a flood like that could never happen. You don't think God will literally send a flood. An ark is a silly idea. You'll never fit all those animals on the ark. As it was in the days of Noah, you get the same stuff today. God, He couldn't have possibly got all the animals on the ark. All right. Noah's Ark, a lesson in how you look at things. For about the next 15 minutes, pretend you're in 5th grade, and I want to hear some answers, and I want them loud enough so that they'll record on the camera. How do you look at very small things very close to you?
Microscope.
Microscope. Okay. This, anybody know what this is?
Hair.
Eyelash?
This is magnified 500 times under an electron microscope. It's a feather. Okay? How do you look at very big things very far away?
Telescope.
A telescope. Give that lady a prize. Okay. What's that?
Moon. Jupiter.
Jupiter. Very good. Mars. All right. This is from the Cincinnati Enquirer. A flood of biblical proportions, enough to fill the Mediterranean Sea, gushed down from the highlands of Mars a billion or so years ago. The latest pictures from Pathfinder confirmed. A biblical flood enough to fill the Mediterranean Sea. Is that what we think the biblical flood was? No. And a flood of that proportion on a planet with maybe a gallon of water. Okay, fill the Mediterranean Sea. There's Noah's flood. Okay, how do you look at very dangerous things?
Cautiously.
Far away. Good. From a safe distance. From a safe distance. Just as an example, one might use a periscope. This is a water-cooled periscope looking inside of a furnace that melts glass. This is the molten glass down here, and this is the erosion pattern caused by the volatiles coming off from the raw materials and just from the heat of the glass melting the ceramics. We use satellites and robots. Bomb squad uses robots. There's a safe distance. How do you look at very big things all at once?
Binoculars?
Yes, somebody else.
Eyes.
Very big things all at once. How about a blueprint? Architectural plans, maps, globes, star charts. All right? Here's a photograph. All right? What is the problem with all of these ways of looking at things? Problem is, we can't tell how big is. We can't tell how big or small something is without something to compare it to. We need a scale. That photograph I just showed you is the machine that pushes the raw materials into the glass melting furnace. I'm 70 inches tall. If I was standing next to it, that's where it would be. So now you know approximately how big that machine is. From the floor to about 1.5 feet over my head.
Who's that young guy?
I don't know. All right. So what do we use to measure distance? Anybody?
Tape measure, yardstick?
Tape measure, yardstick, odometer. All right. What do you use to measure weight?
Scales.
Scales, good answer. Or a balance. What do you use to measure time?
Sundial.
Clock, sundial. Outstanding. He got the... All right. Hey, you get a star today. All right, class. What do we use to measure truth?
Bible.
Let's see. Sincerity? Let's see. Look at that beautiful rainbow. It's a promise from God He'll never again flood the entire earth as He did in Noah's day. My Christian professor said that Noah's flood didn't cover the entire earth. He told you it was just a localized flood. That's what he said. So he believes God promised never to send a localized flood. Does this sound like a local flood? And the waters prevailed exceeding upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all the flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of the fowl, of the cattle, of the beast, and of everything creeping that creepeth on the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, all that was on dry land died. Speaking of measuring, how would they have known that it was at least 15 cubits?
They had a way of measuring
They
that.
used it from the here to here.
They used a plumb line.
Oh, yeah, like you're going down the Mississippi River and they drop the line in on the river boats to make sure that you don't run aground. You had an answer?
I was going to say they use their drone stones probably for that.
Oh, okay, could be.
Yeah.
All right.
What is it?
Okay, if the flood was local, how could the water rise to 15 cubits above all the mountains? Water seeks its own level. It couldn't rise to cover the local mountains while leaving the rest of the world untouched. Okay. People who didn't happen to be living in the vicinity would not be affected. They would have escaped God's judgment of sin. If this happened, what did Christ mean when He likened the coming judgment of all men to the judgment of all men in the days of Noah? A partial judgment in Noah's day means a partial judgment to come. God would have repeatedly broken His promise never to send such a flood again, as we saw in that cartoon. If the flood was local, why did Noah have to build an ark? He could have walked to the other side of the mountains. Why did God send the animals to the ark so they could escape death? There would have been other animals to reproduce that kind of these if these particular ones had died. Why was the ark big enough to hold all kinds of land vertebrates that never have ever existed? Only if Mesopotamian animals were on board, the ark could have been much smaller. And why would birds have been sent on board? They could have simply winged across to a nearby mountain range. Whole bunch of reasons why it wasn't a local flood. There are flood legends all around the world. 270 different flood legends. Hawaii, there was one good man, his name was Nu'u. He built a great canoe and filled it with animals, and waters came over the earth and killed all the people. Only Nu'u and his family were saved. Here's the Toltecs. The first world lasted 17 and 16 years and was destroyed by a great flood that covered the highest mountains. Only one family, Kakaks, survived. That's interesting. If you had that time chart, that is that is really close to that timeline that I gave you for when the flood occurred. So there's another example. Oh yeah, here it is. I did put the slide in here. 1656 as opposed to 1716, was it? That's pretty close for a fairy tale or a legend, urban legend of the Toltecs. All right. The Chinese have a legend of a great flood which covered the whole world. Fuhi and his wife and their 3 sons and their wives were the only ones who survived on a great boat with all the animals. After the boat landed, they repopulated the entire world. That's why I gave you that to continue verb in Chinese. Okay. Here's another thing in the Chinese language, is the genealogies. All right? Dirt means clay or earth, Adam. Sethi is Seth. Lusu and Geo were not sure. Lama is Lamech. Noah, upright man who commanded to build the ark. Gabulin, his wife. So now we know Noah's wife's name, Gabulin. And Loham would be the biblical Ham. So there's the story again. What do we use to measure truth? Science. Oh, certainly we use science to measure truth. And this new discovery completely changes everything you were ever taught about the origin of life. Oh wait, a new discovery totally changes what I just reported. Isn't that the truth? How do we measure truth? Absolutely. Somebody said earlier. We use, therefore I esteem all thy precepts concerning all things to be true, and I hate every false way. All right, let's look at how big Noah's Ark really was. I hate this picture. It's in so many Sunday school curriculum, it makes me want to scream. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and thou shalt pitch it within and without. And with the fashion which thou shalt make it, the length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit thou shalt finish it above. And the door of the ark thou shalt set, and the side thereof, with the lower, second, and third stories thou shalt make it. Okay. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy wife's sons with thee. Okay, using the dimensions there, a cubit is the distance from here to here. So these are approximate measurements based on whosever arm they were using. There's also the possibility, because Moses is writing this, he was raised in Egypt, they use what is known as the royal cubit, which is this, a handspan and a regular cubit, which would make the ark even bigger. But for our discussion purposes, we're going to use the smallest number, because I'll show you that it's absolutely unnecessary for it to be using the royal cubit. 515 feet if we use the Royal Egyptian cubit. This is an artist rendering of what it might have looked like. The purpose of the fin being when the wind blew, it would constantly steer the bow into the waves to prevent it from capsizing. But the dimensions, the ratios used in the ark are used in modern maritime design, and it would have taken a wave 200 feet tall to capsize the ark. very stable. Unlike the Epic of Gilgamesh, the ark in the Gilgamesh is a cube. Talk about something that would be unstable in the water. It would just be rolling all the time. All right, something to catch the wind as it shows there. A cubit upward and above. The window may have been in the side of the wall, but it could also have been in the center. Act for ventilation, keep air moving in there. But there's a couple different designs. Here's a look inside the ark. Has anybody here been to the... Yay!
Actually, water.
3 people have been there.
Next week.
Oh, you're going next week?
No, I said I was reading the cutout.
Oh, you'll bring the cutout. Oh, okay. All right. The Ark Experience. You can see a brief clip of it, advertisement on YouTube, if you look it up. But there's a picture of the Ark. There is some speculation, it doesn't say, but one person who was designing this thing suggested that in the center there were wells right down to the bottom where they could get water from, and also as the boat went like this, it would cause air to go in and out. It would circulate the air inside the ark so there would be fresh air. It's just speculation. We're not told in the Bible, but it would certainly make sense. Very practical approach to keeping the air moving. All right. Here's Noah's house. He decided to build the ark across the street. They took the property over here by eminent domain. And here we go. 450 feet. This is using a normal cubit, not the Egyptian cubit. 75 feet by 45 feet. Okay, so here's our ark. And of every living thing of all flesh, take 2 of every sort shalt thou bring to the ark to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be food for thee and for them. There's a popular theory of people that like to minimize the story, say, well, they didn't have enough room for food, so he put the animals to sleep. The animals slept while they're on the ark. They went into suspended animation. You get some of the dumbest things. It says right there, and food for them. Thus Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so did he. And the Lord said to Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee I have seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take thee by 7s, male and female. So how many of every clean beast did he take? 14. 7 females, 7 females.
The same breed?
Of the same breed, like cows.
What happened to 2? Coming in by 2.
2s is of all of the creatures, but of the clean creatures, you're to take 14. And it makes perfect sense if you think about it. He has 3 sons, so you give them 8 each, a male and female cow, a male and female sheep, a male and female goat, so that they can start their farms and breed the animals, and you have 1 pair of each for sacrifice. Or for Noah. We don't know, but it's a possibility. Okay, so male and female. Of fowls of the air by 7, male and female, to keep them alive upon the face of the earth. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of the waters was upon the earth, and Noah went in with his sons and his wife and his sons with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood, of clean beasts and of beasts that are not clean, of fowls and of everything that creepeth on the earth. There went in 2 and 2 unto Noah unto the ark, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah, and Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them unto the ark. They and every beast of its kind, and all the cattle after their kind, every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after its kind, every fowl after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went unto Noah into the ark, 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in, male and female, the Lord commanded, and the Lord shut him in. Did God shut the door as soon as everyone was on board?
Yes.
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 No!
No? We did? No, before rain.
For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Everybody's in the ark, they're ready to go, and God's giving the surrounding populace one last chance to repent and come into the ark. He's still being patient with many people today. He could close that door anytime. So, all right, questions about the ark. How could God fit all the animals in the ark? All right, if kind is taken to be at the genus level, not family level, then the ark needed to carry 2,300, 3,700, 1,800, total of 8,700. So if you double that, and then you have a few of them that you're going to have 14 of, I didn't include it, so if you round it all off, approximately 16,000 animals. Could they have had enough space? Without stacking the cages, factory farm spacing would require only 47% of the floor space for all of the animals. Chicken farms pack them 3 times tighter. All right, so here, we're back to the ark. Let's open it up. All right, here's a question. A common railroad car will hold like 250 sheep. How many railroad cars do you think we could fit in the ark? Take a guess.
600.
600. What a great guess. All right.
Seriously.
240. No, really. Here we go. Let's put them in there. 522 rail cars. Great. 600. Great guess. All right. So if we had approximately 20. Yes?
Does that have to go in by weight, though, or to make it balance?
Talking about
Yeah.
what makes
Well, yeah, the animal, I'm sure, was balanced in some way. He probably told, okay, put these here, put these here.
Yeah, white stuff on.
All right, so if we had, I've rounded the number up because of the 14s, because I don't know how many of the animals are considered clean. But let's say there were 20,000 animals at 240 per rail car. It only would have taken 83 rail cars, and it holds 522. Take under 100 cars. So, if we tightly pack them, if we loosely pack them, it would take 47% of the space. All right, gross tonnage. There we are. Next, could he fit them? Yes. Did dinosaurs go on the ark?
Baby ones.
Yes.
Eggs.
Does the Bible tell us when dinosaurs were created?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, day 6, land animals. And God said, let the earth bring forth living beasts, creatures after its kind, cattle, creeping things, and beasts of the earth after its kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after its kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Here's an interesting geological. No human being has ever seen a live dinosaur.
Fake news.
Fake news! Boy, you said.
The great behemoth.
Why did they, if they've never seen them, why did they carve them in rocks and weave them into their fabrics? Here's a question. Could you draw a picture of something you'd never seen before with any degree of accuracy? No. What does that look like? Looks like a triceratops to me, yeah. Okay? Got a spike here, and it's got the plate, and it's got another spike here. All right. These are called Ica stones. Only over 50,000 of them have been found in Peru since 1961. Now, they have shown some, and they make a big deal. Well, some of these are fakes. Yeah, because tourists will buy them. So but they only say some of them have been fakes. They know some of them are authentic. All right, here's one. Let's see what we have on here. There's Triceratops. Here's a Stegosaurus of some sort. Here's another one over here. This might, and can't quite tell. That's not a real clue. It might have been a T-Rex. Can't really tell. But there is a museum in Peru. Here's what you might call a dragon. Okay? 50,000 of these stones. Here's some historical reports. Is this possible? Alexander the Great reported that conquering parts of India, his soldiers were scared by great dragons that lived in caves. In China, during the time of Marco Polo, they had what was known as dragon keepers working for the emperor. And dragon's eggs were considered a great delicacy. Well, what on earth did they have? Here's St. George supposedly slaying a dragon. Could have been, we don't know. It's just graphic. And of everything of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring with thee into the ark to keep them alive with thee, and they shall be male and female. Okay, if they were, as this thing is, some type of an apatosaurus, they were probably teenagers or younger. Interesting thing about reptiles. They grow, and they grow, and they grow until they're dead. I have a video, I couldn't find it to put it in here, but it's a creature that's called the Jackson's chameleon. And it's about this big. And it looks like a baby Triceratops. And so I morphed a picture with a Triceratops and I blew the thing up. And you could just see, if this thing had lived 200 years, would have looked the same. Is that what I'm saying, that it is the forerunner of the Triceratops? No idea. All right. Why isn't the word dinosaur found in the Bible? Well, that's a simple question to answer. Word wasn't invented until 1841. It simply means terrible lizard. The words email and spam aren't in the Bible either, but they are part of the curse. Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the water. Dragons are mentioned 35 times in the Bible. When you read the description of some of these dragons, we might get a more complete picture of what life was like. This one's one of my favorites. Behold Behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox. Lo, now his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar tree. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong as pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. He is chief of the ways of God. He's the biggest thing God ever made on land, okay? The chiefest thing.
Is that the brontosaurus?
Yeah, apatosaurus of some sort, yes. What else was I going to say? Oh, anybody ever seen a cedar tree? Whoops.
Yeah, Lebanon.
Yeah, cedars of Lebanon. They're huge. They're absolutely huge. Now, if you have an NIV study Bible, it probably says about this verse, Behemoth was probably an elephant or a hippopotamus. An elephant or a hippopotamus, huh? Well, if this is what cedar tree is like, does that look like... Anybody know what... Yeah, he's kind of surprised, huh? The elephant's tail is like a little piece of rope about that long. All right? How about hippopotamus? All they have is like a little flap of skin. It's about the width of 3 fingers, and that is not a tail like a cedar tree. Could be this guy, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. In the swamp in the Congo and Zaire is as big as the state of bigger than the state of Arkansas. All right. There's this book by this doctor called Makili Mamembe, and this was a creature that they saw in the swamp. All right. This book was written in the 60s. All right. Here is a gentleman describing what he saw in 1983. In the swamp. All right, a missionary couple. Are they liable to be telling lies or spreading fairy tales? They saw a creature like this for 15 minutes in Kenya. They said, somebody drew it, they said, oh, his plates were much bigger than that. And here's from the 1800s. Cowboys said it had a mouth of teeth, a huge wings, smooth, tough membrane like a bat's, and a slender body. Okay? It says it was living Quetzalcoatlus just a little over 100 years ago. And that was from 1972, so that would have been 1872. Here's a prayer stick from an Indian tribe with a head that looked like one of those. You've probably been to Bridges National Park. And there are petroglyphs. I don't know what the guys, and the park rangers will point, oh, this is a bear, and this is a deer. And then they get to this figure right over here. Whoops, I keep pushing the wrong button. Right over here. And if you see the feet and the chest and then the head, and then it comes down, and it goes over and comes down, and then there's like, it's really hard to see these, so I colored them in. See, they're getting the paint. Well, we don't know what that is. We know the bear and the deer, but we don't know what that is. Because it doesn't fit their evolutionary mindset. Did dinosaurs go in there? Yes, they did. Could 8 people do all the work? I'm going to show you the most highly unmotivated group of people. There's Noah with his plans. And there's his kids. So we got 8 workers, 16 animals, 16,000 animals. We got cages. Let's divide it up. 2 of each kind in the cages. 2 of these, 2 of those. 4,000 cages, 10 every 4 days. 8 hours of work, or 8 people working 10 hours a day, 125 cages each. 12 cages per hour. Could 8 people do all the work? Easily, if they had to tend them that often. Could an adequate supply of food and water fit on the ark? And take thou unto thee food that is eaten, and shall be gathered to thee, and it shall be food for thee and food for them. We covered this before. The animals were not sleeping all the time. They may have been a little slower than usual. They're not going to have a lot of activity running around. They wouldn't probably need as much food. But, oops, what happened? Did I lose a slide? Oh, maybe one's out of place. All right. How many days was Noah on the ark? Take a guess.
40 days of freedom. Yes.
Somebody said 40, 41,
150.
100 and something, 150, couple hundred. Well, let's find out. The Bible tells us. And God remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the cattle was on the earth with him in the ark. And God made the wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged, the fountains of the deep. And the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from the heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of 150 days, the waters abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month, and the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month, and the 10th month of the first day of the month were the tops of the mountains seen. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent forth a raven, which he sent forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. He also sent a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. We're almost there. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her feet, and she returned unto the ark. For the waters were upon the face of the whole earth, and he put forth his hand, and he took her and pulled her into the ark with him. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came to him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed another 7 days, and sent forth a dove, which returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, of the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the second month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, the earth dried, and God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee of all flesh, both fowl and cattle, every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth, that they may breed abundantly on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply. How long were they in the ark? Let's see. They entered the ark, and they were there for 7 days. The flood begins 40 days. Rain ends 110 days. The ark lands on the new mountains 74 days. Okay, this is, let's do it this way. These are the days accumulating. These are the individual events over here. Okay, other mountains appear. Another 40 days, Noah sends out a raven. Last dove does not come back. Most of the water is off the land. Noah and his family leave the ark. 378 days. The woodpeckers are getting to be a bit of a pest. Could they have fit a year's worth of food, all of that to figure out how many days we have to have food to feed them? All right? Amount of dried food needed would be about 2,000 tons, 2,500 if only 80% was dry. If it were all hay, it would take up 50% of the ark space, so we're not going to use all hay. If they used 80% grain, it would take up 12%. So there's the animals, there's the food, water. Amount of water needed would be about 4 million liters. This amounts to 10% of the volume of the ark. 31% empty. That would have been the whole top floor. All right, could a year's supply of food and water fit on the ark? Yep. Did meat-eating animals have anything to eat? They didn't have refrigeration. Well, animals originally ate plants. This is a book for little kids called The Lion Who Wouldn't Eat Meat. And she absolutely refused. She ate grains, she ate plants. She would not touch meat. All right. What about all the manure? The kids always ask this one. That's why I say picture yourself as 5th graders. All right.
Threw them down the shafts.
Yeah. The self-cleaning chicken coops, emptied in. They could have pushed it overboard. Could have used it for compost. Could have used it for insect food. There were insects, because they creep on the earth. Could have been burned for heat. I mean, that's what they do in the Himalayas. When they go up there, they burn the yak poop for heat.
They go yuck.
Yep. It was possible. One more question about the ark. Anybody know what the big question is?
Where is it?
Where's the land?
Where is it?
Mountains of Ararat.
There we go. And the ark rested on the 7th day upon the mountains of Ararat. Plural. Well, where are the mountains of Ararat? They extend from central Turkey down into northern Iraq and parts of Iran and Georgia. All right, so there could have been anywhere in there. This was a satellite photo. Some of them think that it's on Ararat, hidden by the glacier. This was an infrared photo by a satellite 350 miles up, looking at Mount Ararat specifically, which is possible. All right. This was exposed after a landslide, and this is very interesting. The distance from here to here is about 450 feet. Isn't that interesting? This was reported on by a guy named Ron Wyatt. And the government confirms that this, if you look at it from further away, it looks like part of the hull of what could have been a ship. government says, this is Noah's Ark. You know, and they put a visitor's center here. There's your visitor's center. There's a close-up view of Noah's Ark Visitor Center. And part of the reason that the Turkish government was so eager to say, yeah, this is Noah's Ark, was to stop people from looking around. There's some secured areas around here, and there you have to get special permits from the government, and people are constantly trying to search these mountains, which are in Georgia, which was the southern part of the Soviet Union. So, to avoid conflicts, they kind of try to put the kibosh. Oh yeah, this is it. We agree. All right. Here are 5 theories. Partially dismantled, and the wood was used to build houses and barns. It rotted after all that time. It's still on one of the mountains, hidden by the glacier. So that's what number 4 is. It's still there. And of course, number 5, it was found. Boink. So where is the ark today? That's a big conclusion. End of part 4. Any questions?
I don't even think they let them go there anymore, right?
I think there was one group that went about 2 years ago, but they didn't come back with anything conclusive one way or the other.
One of the things to share, when we were there visiting, the way the ark set up, as each person had a certain chore, certain area.
Yeah.
But the way they put grain down, they would pour it from the top, and then it would channel into the cages. So it's not
So that they had fresh water.
Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was amazing. If that's on your bucket list, I just pray that you can go and visit it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's where?
In Kentucky.
Kentucky?
And you can visit the Creation Museum. You can do both.
They're about 20 miles, 25 miles apart.
Close to each other.
It's really
He
great.
isn't there.
All right.
It starts with a W. I'll look it up. I'll tell you in a minute.
Next week, did I have anything after this slide? I better look, huh? Yeah, next week, Noah comes off the ark. We'll talk about the curse of Canaan, the Table of Nations, and the Tower of Babel. And then we'll look at all of the biblical doctrines that appear in the first 11 chapters of Genesis and why it's so foundational to the rest of the Bible.